The cancel culture strikes again. This time, sheet music is said to be racist. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp fires back at critics of the state's new voting laws, while left-wing radicals continue to call for boycotts. Plus, migrant border-crossing teens in San Diego are given in-person schooling, while American kids are still at home. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with the cancel culture because it is out of control, and you have to wonder, when will it all end? When is enough enough? Because these guys are out of control. We're losing Aunt Jemima. We're losing Uncle Ben. The Cream of Wheat guy is gone. The Land O'Lakes lady is gone. Dr. Seuss is under attack, and so is Mr. Potato Head. Certain left-wing studies say that your 3-month-old baby could be a racist. That's how things are going. But it's not enough. The left, this ultra-woke left-wing cancel culture, is at it again. They're still going. This time, the latest target is sheet music. Sheet music is said to be a sign of white supremacy. And here's the story. Staff members within the University of Oxford's music department have deemed sheet music colonialist and have suggested ways to decolonize the curriculum. Professors said that music notation has not shaken off its connection to its colonial past and that not rebranding it would be a slap in the face for students of color, according to documents reviewed by the British outlet The Telegraph. The same faculty also reportedly questioned whether the current curriculum was complicit in white supremacy, pointing to the program's focus on white European music from the slave period, composers like Mozart and Beethoven. The professors further suggested that certain classical music skills, like playing the piano and conducting orchestral arrangements, ought not to be required because they structurally center white European music and cause students of color great distress. What can you even say to this? Things are getting absolutely out of control. What they're saying is, if you study the great masters like Beethoven and Mozart, you are actually embracing white privilege. And by studying these, by offering studies on Beethoven and Mozart, you are causing great distress in certain groups of people. Certain groups of people that want to go study music, you make them study Beethoven and Mozart, you're going to cause great distress. That's what they're saying. And you know what's driving all this? I bet you can guess, the BLM movement and this ultra-woke leftist cancel culture. And here's more. The proposed changes appear to have driven in response to the Black Lives Matter movement. Arising from international Black Lives Matter demonstrations, the faculty board proposed making changes to enhance the diversity of the undergraduate curriculum. The faculty members said the curriculum should broaden its music offerings with studies like African and African diasporic musics, global musics, and popular musics. Oxford's music curriculum already offers non-Eurocentric course options, but the professors who proposed these changes said the school's nearly all-white faculty gives privilege to white musicians by default. So you see, a diverse array of classes is already offered, but with these folks, that's not enough. It's not enough to offer classes in Beethoven and Mozart and classes in other studies. No, you have to actually denounce Beethoven and Mozart. You have to denounce sheet music to be sufficiently woke. You have to say that I hate myself for being white, and I can't stand that we have to study these folks, and I can't stand that sheet music is a sign of colonialism. I hate myself. That's what they're saying. You can't just go study music anymore, but that's what's going on, and it's spreading like crazy. We need to fight back. All right, next, let's talk about what's going on in Georgia. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push for 150,000 subscribers, and we can do it with your help. All right, let's talk about what's going on in Georgia, because the left, the Democrats, and the media are in an absolute meltdown because of Georgia's new voting laws. Georgia wants ballot security, and the left freaks out. They want insecurity. Georgia says, hey, we want legal people to vote, as many as possible, just not illegal people to vote, and not have mechanisms that promote voter fraud. Yet the left goes crazy, and you've got these spineless corporate leaders in sports and media, entertainment, saying we should now boycott Georgia. That's right. Georgia wants more secure elections, yet they're the bad guy. So, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, he was on Fox News. He was explaining all this. So let's start with his explanation of what this law actually does.
Well, it's very simple. It makes it easy to vote and hard to cheat. Really, the four main things that I just want to make sure that people realize what the bill does. It takes the signature match process and replaces it with a voter ID, which is free in Georgia. It secures drop boxes in a better way than was done in the last election. Also requires poll workers to continuously count or tabulate the ballots until every vote is counted. And then it expands access for our early voting period, especially on the weekends.
So that's the new voter law, and there's a lot to it, folks. It requires voter ID for absentee ballots instead of this bogus signature matching. It secures the drop boxes. It says once people start counting ballots, they have to keep counting until they're done. None of this, hey, we're going to send people home and stop counting and then come back later on when no one's looking. None of that anymore in Georgia. It's good. And there's other things too. They diminish the power of the Secretary of State. They set up a voter intimidation hotline, and they say individual counties can't get funding from private organizations to help run the elections. There's a lot to it, and yet the left is freaking out. They're calling for boycotts. They're saying, don't go to Georgia, take sports games away from them, on and on and on. And here's more.
But critics call it voter suppression, saying that black voters are more likely to be impacted by the changes. Now, critics are putting pressure on big businesses. The National Black Justice Coalition is urging the famed Masters tournament to relocate from its Augusta national home, writing in part, professional golf should not reward Georgia's attacks on democracy. And across the internet, growing calls to boycott Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, and Home Depot, all Georgia-based giants.
The message that I want them to take away from this is that voter suppression is bad for business. It's bad for your bottom line.
So in addition to the Masters, Major League Baseball is examining moving the All-Star game out of Atlanta. Tony Clark, who's the head of the Players Union, said he looks forward to the discussions of possibly moving the game. It's absolutely outrageous. And here's one thing about that NBC News clip. Did you see the tweets, the people who are actually protesting? It's a group of Hollywood leftists and the disgraced Lincoln Project. That's who they use as their verification, which leads to a question, leads to a point. Are people really outraged? Are they outraged at this? Is it controversial? No. The answer is a flat out no. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution did a survey of registered voters, found 74% favor voter ID laws. 74%. Rasmussen Reports held a survey as well, and they say the support for voter ID laws transcends political and racial lines. And here's the story. A new Rasmussen Reports national telephone and online survey finds that 75% of likely U.S. voters believe voters should be required to show photo identification, such as a driver's license, before being allowed to vote. Only 21% are opposed to such a requirement. 89% of Republicans support voter ID requirements, as do 60% of Democrats and 77% of voters not affiliated with either major party. Majorities of whites, 74%, blacks, 69%, and other minorities, 82%, say voters should be required to show photo identification before being allowed to vote. Voters under 40 support voter ID laws more than do older voters. So, a measure that has overwhelming support against party and racial lines is deemed controversial by the media and racist by the Democrats. That's what they're saying. There is no controversy except for the people saying that you should think it's a controversy. Everyone supports this, folks. Blacks, whites, Hispanics, Republicans, Democrats, independents. There is no controversy except when a Democrat or a media person talks about it. This is a big issue, folks. It's one that has widespread support. And yet, again, spineless corporations are calling for boycotts for something that has wide support, that is not controversial. It shows how the left is entrenched in big corporations, in the media, and entertainment. It's absolutely outrageous. Good for Georgia. Let's stick with them. Let's fight back. All right, let's talk about what's going on in California, in particular San Diego County, because there, kids haven't been in school in person in a year. Talk about not following the science. The science says you should get back to class. You should have been back months and months and months ago. Studies from this summer, before there was even a vaccine, said kids should be in school. Not in San Diego, but guess who is? Guess who's receiving in-person instruction? Illegal immigrant kids that are being shipped over to San Diego have been receiving in-person schooling while American kids are still at home. Now, Jim Desmond, who's a county supervisor over in San Diego County, he's outraged. He had this to say.
Office of Education is sending teachers over for in-person classroom training. Our own kids here in San Diego County, can't get in-person training, but here are these migrants who actually, I'm glad they're getting that educational opportunity, but so should our kids that they've been waiting over a year to get back into school.
So illegal immigrant kids are getting in-person instruction. American kids are not. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked about this at yesterday's briefing. Why is this happening? Why are American kids still at home doing online learning, remote learning, when all the studies show it is not good? They need the socialization. They need to be together. They need in-person instruction, even though it's left wing, but that's another story for another day. But why are these illegal immigrant kids getting in-person instruction? Jen Psaki responded in her usual way, but said you have to put this all in context.
Well, I'm just saying that context is important, and these kids are going back to school for hybrid learning. We, of course, want that to be 5 days a week, and we're confident we'll get there early next month. And I believe they're also on spring break right now. So these teachers would be, I'm not sure if it's volunteer or paid. You'd have to ask the local school district while the kids are on spring break, which I think the context is pretty important.
Wow, what a completely useless answer. Whether they're on spring break or not is irrelevant. The fact is they've been at home for a year with this remote learning. These kids show up and immediately get in-person instruction. That's what's relevant. She can't even answer the question. Now, Republican Representative Darrell Issa, he pointed out the outrage that all parents should be feeling. For more than a year, parents and students in San Diego County have waited for educators to answer one question. When will our schools reopen with in-person instruction only? And for a year, they've been told to wait. Representative Darrell Issa, Republican in California, told Fox News. The decision to provide in-person instruction to illegal migrants is outrageous, and parents have every right to be angry. Well, he's certainly right about that. And here's the thing. These kids need to be back in school, and prioritizing illegal immigrants over American children when our tax dollars are paying for American kids to be educated. This is what's going on. It's not right, but is all a direct result of Joe Biden's open borders policy, and it needs to stop. All right, next, let's talk about Kamala Harris for a second, because things are getting weirder and weirder and weirder. First of all, you have to wonder what she's doing. She stays hidden about as much as Joe Biden is. And she's not exerting any leadership, just like Joe Biden. But when she does get out there, it's absolutely strange. We have this crisis at the border, a full-blown crisis, border surge. Border Patrol is overwhelmed. The facilities are overwhelmed. Joe Biden's doing nothing. Kamala Harris is doing nothing. Neither of them have visited the border and assessed the situation. She was asked if she was going to visit the border. Here's how that exchange went.
Do you have plans to visit the border?
Not today, but I have before, and I'm sure I will again.
That's just the weirdest thing. What was so funny about that? You have kids being packed into facilities by the thousands. There's a border crisis, and she thinks it's funny to ask about the border. So then she was appointed to be the czar of the border crisis to fix the problem. Well, that lasted about 2 days until I said, you know what, now we're not going to do that. We're going to assign her to study the root causes of why this is happening. Well, Jen Psaki was asked about that switch and Kamala Harris's role, and here's what she said.
I actually think that members of the media deserve to have an understanding of what her exact role was, and engaging with these countries, engaging with their leaders, figuring out how to invest best, how to work in partnership, how to prevent corruption from taking over, to put in place steps that will make the journey less desirable. That is certainly a big assignment, and one the president is confident the vice president will take on.
So nothing to actually stop the surge now, nothing to actually stop the crisis now. She's not doing anything, and of course Jen Psaki's useless. But then Kamala Harris was also asked recently about the situation in San Diego, where poor American kids are still at home while these kids are getting in-person instruction. And here's part of her response to that line of questioning.
more parents are seeing the value of educators when they had to bring their kids and saying, we're not paying them nearly enough.
So what is that? Is she crazy or something? First of all, to put this in, look at the situation. She's on stage by herself. No one is around her, and she's got that big stupid mask on. And then she's doing this laughing thing. It's just so weird. Now, Katie Pavlich, who's the editor over at townhall.com, she blasted Harris on the substance about illegal aliens getting this in-person education when American kids are still at home. And then she pointed out what should be obvious.
And just on a basic staffer level, has nobody sat down with the vice president and said, you have to stop laughing when you are asked serious questions? It makes you look out of touch. It makes you look incompetent. That's a basic thing that they should have fixed by now.
Yes, they should have fixed that by now. You have incompetent and you have crazy, and that's the leadership in the United States when all of this is going on. And believe me, our foreign adversaries out there, they realize this, they recognize this, and they're just licking their chops because this is the American leadership we have. Congratulations to all those who voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Folks, that's our show for today. But first, a special announcement. Starting Monday, we are also going to be on Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm so excited. The 13-minute news hour will be available here, and it'll be available on their platforms as well, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble. I am so excited to join the family. They are a great organization. And now the 13-minute news hour will be going to even more people. Very excited about that. All right, folks, before you go, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. And we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.